Hello, Miss Hurst here, and today we're going to make cheese flan. The first thing for you to do is to get everything ready and weighed out. This is called mise en place. It means everything set up or everything in its place. To make the pastry you will need 200 grams of plain flour, 100 grams of butter and 4 tablespoons of cold water. To make a simple cheese filling you will need 150 millilitres of milk, 2 eggs and 150 grams of grated cheese. We are going to be adding today 2 rashers of bacon, cherry tomatoes and asparagus. It is totally up to you what you would like to add. Almost any vegetable is suitable to add to a cheese flan. Onions, sweet corn, broccoli, peppers, mushrooms, spinach. You have to think about whether the vegetable is a hard vegetable or a soft vegetable, and that will tell you if you need to cook it first. On these chopping boards here we have hard vegetables on the left and soft vegetables on the right. If you would like to add hard vegetables, you need to cook first to make them soft. A cheese flan has a soft texture throughout, so if you were to add hard vegetables, this would make an unpleasant mouthfeel whilst you are eating it, with a very contrasting difference between the hard vegetables and the soft flan. If you only plan to add soft vegetables, these do not need cooking before you put them in your cheese flan. A pepper does not take a long time to soften, so time in the oven is enough and it doesn't need to be cooked first. The equipment you will need is a mixing bowl, a knife, a measuring jug and a tablespoon, a sharp knife and a chopping board, a wooden spoon, baking tray and a flan tin. The flan tin we are using today is smaller than 8 inches, so we will have some mixture left over. You also need some tin foil, a rolling pin and a frying pan if you are cooking bacon or softening any hard vegetables. Preheat your oven to 200 degrees. We're ready to start making some pastry. Chop your butter into cubes and add into your flour in your mixing bowl. Using the tips of your fingers, start to make some breadcrumbs. Once you have breadcrumb consistency, you're ready to add some cold water. You need to add this gradually and careful not to add too much. Although the recipe calls for 4 tablespoons, start by putting 3, as you can always add more, but you cannot take any away. Use a knife to bring the water and flour together. If the mix is too dry, add another tablespoon of water. A good test to see if it is ready is to use a hand and squeeze a piece together. If it comes together as one, then you are ready to get your hands involved and bring all of the pastry together in the bowl. Tip onto your work surface, then add a dusting of flour over both the pastry and your rolling pin as well, to prevent anything from sticking. When rolling out your pastry, consider the shape of your tin. You do not need to apply a lot of pressure to the rolling pin. You will need to roll, turn, and continue to do this, making sure your work surface and rolling pin are well floured to prevent any sticking. Check your pastry against the size of your tin. If you put it in the centre, you should have enough around the edge that would be able to fill the sides of your tin. Using your rolling pin, roll your pastry over so that you are able to lift it up and then place it over the top of your tin. Make sure you roll it so the tin is central and you have enough pastry all the way around the outside of the tin to push into the sides. Using your knuckle, very softly lift the edges and push down into the corners of the tin. We're now going to let the pastry rest for 10 minutes whilst we make our filling. If we were to put it straight in the oven now, it would shrink and the edges would fall. We've been handling the pastry quite a lot and rolling it out. It's almost like a piece of elastic. By allowing it to rest, you're allowing it to relax into the tin shape, and it will be less of a shock when it hits the oven. You can clean up your work surface ready to make the filling for your cheese flan. Crack 2 eggs into a bowl and whisk with a fork. Add the milk and half of the grated cheese. If you are adding seasoning, for example salt, pepper or some herbs, you could add this now too. As we are putting salty bacon into ours, we are not going to add any seasoning. Prepare any vegetables that you are going to be adding. Cherry tomatoes could be cut in half, for example. Think about the size of a mouthful of food. We are now going to cook our bacon. If you are cutting raw meat, you must use a separate chopping board and knife to prevent cross-contamination. Cook on a medium-high heat in a frying pan. The pastry has now rested and we're ready to trim the edges. If you are using a fluted flan tin, as we are in this demonstration, you can use your rolling pin to roll over the top and this will remove any excess pastry. If you are using a flat-edged tin, you will need to use a knife to cut away the edges. Use a fork to prick holes all over the base of the pastry. This will prevent a soggy bottom. Place on a baking tray. This will make handling in and out of the oven easier. Use a piece of tin foil and scrunch it up and then place on the inside of your pastry. This is to blind bake and prevent the edges falling. If you have baking beans or any other kitchen utensil for blind baking, you could use this instead of tin foil. Place in the oven at 200 degrees for 5 minutes with the foil, then remove the foil and bake for another 5 minutes. Once your pastry is baked, turn the oven down to 180 degrees. We're ready to start filling. You are now ready to start building the layers of your flan. Consider spreading out your ingredients so that you get a range of flavours in every mouthful. We had bacon on the base layer, then some cheese. Make sure you stir the egg mixture before adding, as some of the grated cheese may have sunk. We add a little bit of this before our tomatoes and asparagus, then some more egg mixture and some more cheese. You do not want to overload your pastry. You want it to be about 3/4 full before you put it in the oven. Your cheese flan will need to go in the oven for 30 minutes until it is set and golden brown on top. The setting of the runny egg mixture to a solid flan is called coagulation. Rest for 5 to 10 minutes before you remove from the tin. You can serve your flan warm or cold. If you lift up your flan, you should see a nice crispy base. This is due to the resting and blind baking of your pastry.